So thank you for joining us. This table's a bit rocky, but we'll go. Would you mind starting by just telling the audience who you are, what you do, and what your company does?
Sure. Hi everyone. I'm the founder and CEO of Cointelligence. Before I talk about Cointelligence, I'll just give you tell you a little bit about myself. I've been an entrepreneur most of my life, angel investor for the last 10 years. And 2 years ago, when I heard about blockchain and crypto, I decided to dedicate my life to this amazing innovation. And as much as I usually sound very pessimistic and criticizing.
No, don't worry about it. No, we don't think that, do we?
As much as that's the case, I do think that blockchain and crypto is the biggest revolution that mankind ever had, if not the biggest, then one of the biggest. And one of the reasons that gets me very worked up is because I see bad actors destroying this amazing innovation and making people stay away from it, thinking bad things about it. Now, about Cointelligence. Cointelligence is a research and analysis company. We analyze blockchain and crypto companies. We developed a rating system for ICOs, STOs, coins, and exchanges. And we also do education. We are very much into educating people in a good way, in an objective way, and not by shilling specific projects or endorsing any specific project or coin. And beside all of that, we are also scam hunters. We call out the bad actors out there. We make sure that as many people are aware of them and what they're doing or trying to do. And that's part of the reason that I'm here today. I would like to say that I do appreciate the fact that Eric helped me get back on the stage. My initial plan was to say exactly what I am going to say today. And I think that, and one of the options that I raised when I was removed from the event was maybe because one of the scammers who attended or was speaking at this event didn't want me here. That's one of the options. I don't know if that's the truth. I just raised a couple of options when I was asked to be removed.
What was the other option?
So I raised an option that it might have something to do with me being Israeli, because when I got the message from the event organizers, from the main event organizer, Max, he said that a sheikh from the Middle East want me to be removed. Now, as an Israeli coming from Israel, when I hear something like that, it immediately gets me worked out as someone that is very into the Middle East problems, I would say, without going into politics at the moment. So that was another option that I raised, and as I stated, I didn't know what was the real reason, and I did ask again and again to disclose the real reason, and obviously I was refused, so I don't know until now.
I guess that's what a lot of the people that have approached me have said might be the issue, is that you published your two options without knowing the truth, which is the diametric opposite of what Cointelligence stands for, research and truth. In fairness, you do publish when you don't know something, saying, I don't know, I'm speculating. You do say that. But the topic of potential anti-Semitism as an option is not something to take lightly, because the inference is, as you sent me a direct message saying you have to remove these people, otherwise you are complicit, is more or less what you said, means that you imply that I'm anti-Semitic as well. So do you think that there's perhaps a better way to handle that.
First, I never said that anyone participating or managing this event has something to do with that specific issue. Second, I never said that that's the issue. I raised an option, and I was very, very clear about that.
No, I totally.
And the third part of my answer is that it's not relevant. The main point is that I was removed. The main point is that I was removed in order to shut me up. That's the main point. Not anything else, in my opinion. And the most important part is the fact that we have scammers on event page.
So we're going to come to that.
Yeah.
And just finishing off on this topic, you should know that I objected to that. I took a strong objection to it. We don't have to agree on everything. And I understand that you published it as an option. But there was two things that I objected to. One was that you sent me and a lot of the other speakers a message saying, if you appear, or if you support this, then you must accept some responsibility for this.
For the scammers,
For the
and the scam enabling,
But then,
not for anything else.
but do you see the conflation that took place by the fact that you actually raised those two options? It's very interesting. I have never heard you say, I could have handled something better. Do you think that, with the benefit of hindsight, and many people that I've heard have spoken to you on the same topic, just that particular bit you might have done differently?
I can tell you one thing. I think that there might be a difference between how you and I look at this issue.
It's true.
Again, because you will never be able to understand what I see and the other way around.
That's true. I don't have your...
And you don't have my life experience, but I think that unless you tell me that we're going to have extra time, I think that we should really focus on the scammers, because that's the real issue.
I'm so not going to cut you off. Yeah, I mean, I thought to get you here. I want to have this great discussion. But still, I haven't heard anything. You know, I approached Max, for example. I said, Max, you know, think about what happened there. Could we have handled this any better? And he absolutely acknowledged that he could, which is great. But I haven't heard you acknowledge that there might have been a better way to handle that.
I need to research some more and think about it some more. I think that you, and I'm not saying it just to get away from the answer.
That's reasonable.
I do need to investigate this more, because I look at things in a specific way. I want to hear some more opinions, more thought, to see how people are looking at it on a different angle.
That's fair enough.
And then I'll be able to say. And by the way, I already, what you just said, maybe you didn't hear me admit that I was mistaken in the past, but I made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes in my life, and I learned from them. I never criticize people for making mistakes. I never criticize entrepreneurs for failing. I failed myself a couple of times
I think
before.
that qualifies you to do the education part of your
Exactly, it's a
Just
part
finish on your business model there. How does Cointelligence make money?
Well, it doesn't.
Oh, right. Okay, as a business, maybe that's not a great idea.
It's not a great idea at all.
How do you
It
do
didn't
this?
bother me at all for the last 2 years, but now there is a very clear direction that we are considering with regards to Cointelligence Academy, and that might be profitable, but...
Charging for education.
Yes, but I don't want to talk about that too much, because
No.
I'm not here to promote my business agenda.
Yeah, but it is relevant, because I looked after our initial exchange at the Cointelligence website to understand your business model. And I see sponsored or promoted listings for projects. So do people pay for those listings?
Yes, but it's so not common and not happening too often that I'm not even looking at it as a potential.
But how do you decide which projects to publish, just so we know?
Oh, you mean if I publish a project
Or you allow somebody to pay you?
We will never allow anyone to advertise on Cointelligence unless we did due diligence on them and make sure that they are legit. Absolutely.
And how do you do that with due diligence?
So we have a whole process. We have a research team that analyzes the projects. I think that our biggest advantage is the fact that we have a very unique mix of people on the team. So we are able to review on a business level, on a financial level, on blockchain and crypto level, because we have a few of the biggest experts, in my opinion, on our team. If it includes everything from token economics, up to actually verifying security issues or cyber security issues, and so on and so on. For example, one of the most famous stories that we published was about an audit that we did for Bitfinex Leo token, and we find it to be scammy because it's not a smart contract. They can actually change it anytime they want. The CTO confirmed online that we are right, and they can actually change it. So that's not a smart contract to me.
No, that's true. But that's interesting. So you have this panel, and it sounds like they're amazing experts. Do you publish who this panel are?
So I do publish who's the head of research.
Okay.
But when it comes to raters, for example, the ones that rated the ICOs or the ones that are doing the rating for exchanges, we will never disclose these people because we don't want people to be able to influence them and bribe them.
I see. That's interesting. It's good on the one hand because it means they're free of corruption, but we have to rely on you ensuring there's no bias.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely
That's
right.
great. So that's what is interesting is that means that anyone who goes to your site needs to completely acknowledge that you and your bias, whatever it is the one that ensures that that panel is pure. Now,
not me personally, the team.
The team.
Because we always have a process. If you have a rater, then you have someone that will review his work and make sure that what he did was right.
Hopefully there's a great process. I don't want to dwell too long on this because there's content to get to. Just to say that that's not exactly transparent. I mean, in a regulated business, you have to name the people. They have to be checked out by, for example, the FCA as having no particularly valid track record. And so there is a standard around which in a regulated business exists. But yet you are, in the end, going to be doing research and then publishing listings where people could go and decide to buy tokens and invest. But the lack of transparency means that I don't know who's done that view and what their bias is. So have a think about that as you ponder.
Hey, I thought about it many times before, and absolutely you are right, but it's a catch-22. So I prefer to have it this way, and I know that I have records of everything, so if at one point someone will attack us for something like that, I will always be able to prove.
I'm sure that there are many out there that are lining up to have a reasonable pop at you. So keep your records. But actually there's interesting regulations. For example, in Malta they came up with these verified financial auditors. So you know the standard of the people that are verifying the smart contracts. They pass tests. And so if you were to improve what you do, I think maybe thinking about something like that, props to Malta there for actually making great progress in that. So the identity of your scrutiny panel is interesting. But now let's dive into it. So, but before we do, have you ever promoted a token issuance where people have lost money?
Never.
Never. And all of the ones that have been published, you're confident are correctly published and being issued legally. So not, for example, a security token disguised as a utility token, an ICO.
Absolutely.
That's great. Does that include Kabin? KABN?
KABN.
Which was listed as a sponsored promotion on your site. I noticed it. I looked at Wayback Machine.
That was a test that we did. They actually didn't pay us anything. So.
Right, because that looked to me like a security token. In fact, the definition had said equivalent to a preference equity token in a description. Sponsored listing on your website back in March.
Okay, and that information you got from one of the scammers that didn't want me
Actually, it's
on
Wayback
the
Machine.
stage here. No, but it's the same.
Public domain.
It's the same issue that was raised when I was about to publish a story about one of the scammers speaking here. So I'm guessing that it's the same. But no, I'm saying we didn't get paid for it. There's no payment here. We did a test. We put the sponsor tag for a while, and we removed it afterwards.
Do you see? Do I need to? I don't think I need to explain. You're a very intelligent guy. I don't need to explain to you that the fact that you weren't paid is irrelevant to the fact that you had a contract to do that and you were going to be paid, and that.
No, you don't understand. I didn't get paid. I wasn't supposed to be paid.
Ever been paid.
There wasn't a contract at all.
Okay.
Payment.
So leaving that, but just then the fact that you were promoting what was self-described as a security token, a preference equity token, equivalent to a preference equity token, on the website, visible today on Wayback Machine. Is that something that you might have improved now from when you were first?
I need to review what you're saying because
I'm saying you promoted a security token
Yeah.
that actually shouldn't have been. And By the way, for you to do that,
I don't
it would
understand.
need to be
You're
a
saying that I
regulated
promoted a
business.
security token
Yeah, I mean, it was self-declared.
when it was not a security token?
No. It's just that you are not a regulated business, so therefore you're not allowed to promote equity tokens.
Okay, so first of all, if I promote the difference between having you on the top of the list and promoting it and saying this is a good project, and similar to the rating websites that actually gave high rating and made people
Better than
invest.
that.
So right now, you're talking to me about something that was never rated. It was just saying sponsored. I know that because we never published any ratings for STOs.
Right.
We did do the ratings, but we never published them.
I want to drill down into this, but I want you to get to the particular concerns. I tell you, I'm going to make this as long as it needs to be. So because I think this is an interesting discussion. Just to finish off on this point, because the issue is that the law says if you promote or sponsor or produce an advertisement which could result in people buying an equity token or a security token or something that should be a regulated offering, you need to be a regulated entity to do so. Now, Cointelligence, through the principles and the values that you described when you first came on here, is going to be an organisation where investors go to consider investing because of your process. You have checked things out. But what I'm suggesting to you is that listing, and perhaps some others, were not legally offered. And it could be that you didn't know at the time, and now you fixed that. And that's part of learning and what these conferences are about. But I wondered if that was an issue for you, and how do you approach this today? So if I come to you and I have something like KABN, which I actually say is equivalent to a preference equity token, do you say to me, where is your regulatory status?
It's not relevant at the moment because we're not doing ratings at the moment for anything besides exchanges.
Okay, but
since I realized what you're saying, and I understood that I'm not able to publish rating for STOs, I just decided to completely stop rating STOs. So everything you're asking me is actually not relevant.
You fixed the...
I didn't fix anything because I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't publish rating for STOs, so I didn't do anything wrong.
No,
I was about to publish rating for STOs, and I checked to make sure that I'm not doing anything illegal. I am not sure until today if I am able to publish rating for STOs or not. Maybe yes, maybe no.
I think you've got some good legal advice.
But it's not relevant because we never did it. Very simple. Having a sponsor tag is not the same as having rating, to do rating for a project.
Okay, so for you, a paid-for sponsor tag for an equity token is not the same as you rating. Agreed.
Completely different.
But you do see that the regulator might take a different view, saying that because it's sponsored and because it is therefore displayed prominently, an investor might consider investing in that.
Absolutely, but we never got paid. So again, no matter what you ask me, we didn't do anything wrong. So we can continue talking about it.
No, we will now move on to...
It's fantasy.
No, it's not fantasy.
It is fantasy.
I would respectfully suggest check with your legal advisor.
I don't have anything to check. We never got paid and we never published ratings for STOs.
I didn't say you did. I said you put a sponsored display of an equity token, which is considered an advertisement under the regulations. Being the reasonable person that you are, I know you would check that. In the same way as you're going to check and take counsel about your other remarks, because that shows me that we're having a conversation for reasonableness. But let's move on, because I think you've got some actually interesting things to talk about, to do with a lot of the people that we've actually had on here yesterday, and actually the people that I choose, and I want to see them come and speak, because I want to speak to them and hold them to account, as we did yesterday. Now, I know you caught some of the debates yesterday, and in our preparation for this, we went through an amazing list of people that I'd like you to just tell us about, and start with, I mean, some of the biggest names were here yesterday, for example, John McAfee. We had a very interesting interview with him. What's your issue with John McAfee? Let's start with that.
I have a very big issue with John McAfee because he's enabling scams.
Tell me more details.
He is promoting, he promoted on his Twitter very, very obvious and clear scams. One example is Carrot Bars that was already announced as an MLM Ponzi scheme, as a clear scam, and he promoted it. Obviously there's evidence for what I'm saying, it's very clear. It wasn't the only case. there were other cases. And beside the fact that he's just making a bad name for all of us with his behavior, he's enabling scams, period. And let's also remember that he's also wanted by the US authorities. So while you let him be on your stage, means that you're helping a scam enabler to continue promote his agenda and to make other people fall into these scams.
Great, so that's where the complicit part comes from you. It's where we as a conference organizer create a live link to somebody who is overseas. By the way, we checked legally whether we can actually do that because he has these apparently warrants or whatever it is out for him. And we also had reporting restrictions. We didn't want to be contempt of court and all that kind of stuff. So we do a few checks to make sure that we actually legally can do what we do. But yours is not that, whether it's legal or not shaming. Yours is, by giving him a platform, we enable it. I suggest to you that it's exactly the opposite. Is that Mum?
I don't think it's Mum. It's probably one of the people supporting this talk. But
okay,
we'll check later.
What we did is we asked him in the interview that we asked him about his new exchange. He's launched a new exchange, which has almost no KYC. And we asked him the question, if in 6 months' time it's proven that there's been a terrorist attack and the terrorist is caught and admits they financed it using his exchange, how is he about that? And his answer was pretty much that it is no better, it's the same as it is with cash, which is a non-answer for me. But that for me is actually the kind of reason, and I give you that as an example, that's the reason we do this, is we bring those that promote those kind of ideas, because we want, like you, to improve the industry.
So I completely disagree with you, and I'll give you another example. So you also had Rubini on this stage.
We did.
Now, Rubini is against crypto in a very, very dedicated way, which is exactly the opposite of where I stand, because I'm all about cryptocurrency. And beside the fact that I think that he was killed on the debate yesterday, and he couldn't really respond good answers for what he was asked.
We've seen better Rubini in the past.
Yeah, exactly. Beside that, you wouldn't see me call out Rubini the way that I'm calling out the scammers. It's completely different. We can have debates. To hear another person's opinion is very important. To enable a scammer when maybe you and other people should start talking to scams victims like I have been doing for the last 2 years, maybe it will change your mind. When you enable someone and let him talk to people, empower himself, grow his audience, and on to the next scam to promote.
I fully accept the thing you say about scam victims, and I love the fact that you shine a light on that. Even this morning, when you published that email that you received from a scam victim to say, and who was trying to justify that OneCoin still had an existence. I think that it was also interesting because we still don't know the answer, do we? Do we know the answer as to whether you should be published?
We don't know the answer, and let me just tell the audience so they'll understand. OneCoin is probably the biggest scam that happened so far. It's measured by more than 4 billion euros of money that was lost by investors who invested. The founder and the CEO is on the run for 2 years, completely disappeared from the planet. Her brother is being held at a US jail, and people still continue to invest in this scam. We actually got an email a couple of days ago saying, how dare you call out this scam? You are the scammers yourself. And the guy was being very aggressive and so on, so I published it on social media so people will be able to understand how deep the problem is. It's not just the scammers, it's actually the victims, because I suspect he's one of the victim scammers. He's being scammed and now he's scamming others, or he really thinks that it's not a scam. And some of these people that hold OneCoin are sure that they are either billionaires or going to be billionaires. If you talk to them, you just don't believe how persistent they are about it. And that's a great example what you just raised, because it's not enough that we are doing the calling out job that most people are not doing. we're also being attacked for it. So that's a great example that you raised, because I was attacked on the WhatsApp group that I raised this issue and linked to my Twitter account, and how dare I put in danger everyone in the group for libel actions and so on. So it's not enough that we are attacking the scammers, taking a risk. We're also being attacked by some of the community members, because it's not very nice for them to wake up in the morning and see that the world is not all about red roses. So that I have a big issue with that, as you can see.
It was no. By the way, you shouldn't hold back so much. You should really tell us.
No, I'm not holding back. I'm just trying to be as polite as possible, as I was.
Why? It's not on if you look at that. Okay, so just a little more detail. This is great because. So I love that. I thought that was quite enlightening because it showed me somebody who's probably a scam victim trying to justify themselves by attacking you, trying to call it out.
No. There was the scam victim who attacked us, yeah. And there was some of the community members that don't like us calling out and being negative. Just to make sure that the people don't think that I am saying that the person from the WhatsApp is...
And there was of course the question about whether or not you should have published the actual name and email address.
Yeah.
What's the answer to that? Do you know?
So maybe it's, by the way, speaking of mistakes, maybe I did make a mistake here, but first I asked the person that emailed 3 times to identify himself and to let me know if it's really a fake identity or he just created a fake Gmail and sent it to me.
Possible, yeah.
And second, but that's me, and that's my personal opinion. When you're dealing with a scammer, I don't really care about his privacy. But that's my personal take on it.
Sure. I would definitely suggest, though, you really, as someone seeking to expose scams, we would expect Cointelligence to have the highest standards of this. So if you can improve, I love that you just said,
no,
maybe I made a mistake.
Absolutely. And by the way, it was raised that maybe there's an issue with GDPR, and I already sent it to 3 lawyers, colleagues, and I'm expecting their answers after I get off the stage, and we'll see.
And when you do that, would you then correct your posting?
Absolutely. If they will tell me that it's against GDPR, I will delete it and repost it with the name black.
So you know you're posting about anti-Semitism. Would you fix that one?
I don't understand the question.
Well, you posted an option saying an option.
If Max will disclose what's the real reason that he removed me, and I will know for sure,
then you would fix it.
Then absolutely I will change the post or say that
that's fair.
That's the reason.
And would you also then accept for the harm that you caused while it was unproven but published?
What harm was caused?
It's interesting that you don't see it without me needing to explain it to you.
No, please explain.
So the harm caused was, and I know that others have explained this to you over the last few days because many of you have kindly approached me to tell me that you have tried to explain this, is that when you pull the anti-Semitism card, but you present it only as an option, that is not acceptable because you cause harm by implying, by the implication. It is potentially libelous. And so, rather than actually spend, because actually I want to get to some of the companies that you want to talk about, but I would ask you to please consider that, because the fact that it's published, even if you correct it, it's good that you correct it, but the fact that it's published means that you could have caused harm, for example, to the organizer, who I don't believe is anti-Semitic or supporting anti-Semitism. So it could cause harm.
Okay, point taken.
Beautifully received. Could I ask now that you actually dig deeper now and tell me about some other things? Like, for example, what is the problem with Roger Ver for you?
No. I didn't talk to you about Roger Ver, or didn't mention Roger Ver. What we did talk about was McAfee.
I'm moving on.
I'm moving on because Roger Ver was not on the list. That
it was. We spoke about his use of Bitcoin.com domain.
No. You're mixing something completely
different. No. It's on the list. I made a copy of the list.
Yeah, but we are.
Wait, so I quote you. Am I allowed to quote what we discussed in our conversation about the issue that you had with Roger Ver?
It's not an issue that I had with Roger Ver. It's the issue that I had with Bitcoin.com as a domain name.
As a domain. Okay, so tell me about that issue.
Okay. So I have an issue with Bitcoin.com promoting Bitcoin Cash, and most people that don't understand technology, Bitcoin Cash.com, especially when you get a newsletter at least a couple of times a week, and it promotes Bitcoin Cash heavily in almost every news.
So people could incorrectly think that they were buying Bitcoin, but actually they're buying Bitcoin Cash.
Yes.
Okay.
But I have to say that that's something completely different than the problem that I have with the scammers and the real scammers that you are putting on the stage.
Let's get to those then. Let's chat about those a little bit more. I would like to make sure we have enough time to come back to that. As somebody in marketing, and you are with a great marketing background, SEO, all that kind of thing, I'm sure you would advise people to go after good domains. So, Bitcoin.com is a pretty awesome domain, and I think you did say to me you thought that Roger Ver was one of the pioneers in promoting Bitcoin and adoption.
Absolutely.
Which is
not
great.
For nothing, he's called Bitcoin Jesus.
Indeed. And so, therefore, for me, I think it's fair game that he owns Bitcoin.com, but I do think that if there is a potential for passing off, that perhaps is a fair point. But I don't know who should own it then, because then we're saying, are all the best domains that become incredibly valuable, should they be owned by some trust who then decides who owns them? What's the solution there?
So obviously you can look at it in different ways, because I'm guessing that most of the people that are into Bitcoin would say that the Bitcoin.com domain should be owned by anyone. And it should be for everyone. But I'm not saying that, and me personally, I'm a capitalist, and I think that if he bought the domain, it's his. Okay. Well, in that case, completely fine. I just think that he needs to check how many people really understand that when he's promoting Bitcoin Cash, people really understand that there's a difference between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash and so on.
My action is I'm going to send him a message to say that we had a discussion on stage and we suggested you put some kind of disclosure when people...
Exactly. Even if you're not changing the domain name, put a disclosure.
Great. See, we can sort anything out. Brexit next. But before Brexit, let's talk about maybe Brock Pierce.
I got nothing to say about him for now. But let's talk about Craig.
Okay, let's talk about Craig.
Yeah, let's talk about Craig Wright. So,
did you catch his presence at any of that?
No, not really. I did hear maybe a sentence here, a sentence there. But Craig Wright, and I'm not even going, just to make something very clear. And we talked about Roger and Bitcoin Cash and so on. I'm not taking sides with any specific project. So don't think for 1 second if I'm attacking one specific person, it means I'm attacking the coin that he or she represents. I have an issue specifically with Craig. He announced that he's Satoshi. Obviously, he's either hallucinating or he is a pathologic liar, or maybe other options. I don't know what's the real reason. But obviously he's not Satoshi, and he never proved to be Satoshi because he was asked again and again to prove it, and there's a very simple way for him to prove it. He just needs to use one of the coins that everyone knows are supposed to be owned by Satoshi himself. So it's not a problem. It's a few minutes action to be taken. And besides attacking other people who called them out or suing them, and let's see if he sues me now, then he didn't do anything, he didn't prove anything, he just keeps saying the same things, and he's not supporting his claim with evidence. So I have a very, very big issue with that.
So let's talk about that. In the court in Florida, and I'm going to paraphrase here, I'm going to get it wrong. The judge questioned the integrity of his answers and asked him to prove precisely what we've said. And I believe his answer was that there is a person who holds these Bitcoin in trust and that they will present it within a certain period of time. If he does move it, if he does move just one Satoshi out of that from one of those addresses, does that make him Satoshi Nakamoto?
I think that's a start. And I think that, again, discussing something that is in theory, I'm going to say I'm the Queen of England, and I'm going to tell you, maybe if I'll do this or that in the future, in 5 years, in 20 years, come on. If I would claim that I'm Satoshi, I would be ready to prove it.
So,
Because everyone knows how big of a deal it is.
so what you're saying is we shouldn't speculate.
Yes.
Neither should you, if I may respect
Yes.
you say. And I think you do. So, moving on, with Craig Wright, personally I don't care if he thinks he's Elvis Presley. If he has a useful contribution to help our industry develop, and his way of doing this is through Bitcoin SV, Bitcoin Satoshi Vision, then I want to see more of that and learn about that, right? N-Chain and the company around that. Actually, the thing that worried me about that, which I think is probably quite interesting, is a tiny comment he made on stage. I don't know if anybody caught it. He said that we're patenting that and this. Lightning. That's right. He said that we're patenting some elements of lightning. And so I spoke to a friend of mine who's a patent attorney, and he said that N-Chain have about 100 granted patents in the last 12 months in blockchain. Twice, that's almost half as much as IBM have, by the way, which is the biggest, I think. So that's a hell of a lot of patents. And that's interesting because what he was saying is he would use that, as I suppose people are allowed to do, to defend their commercial position in the market. But what does that mean to anybody else? Does that mean that he would sue, do you think, anybody that used any of those? What were those 100 patents? What do they cover in blockchain? So, blockchain developers, does that mean if you're not using SV, you might get sued? That's an interesting thing to happen in the market. What do you think about that? Why do you think he's patenting that many?
So first we have to make sure that we distinguish between a pending patent and an approved patent.
There were 100 granted. We don't even know how many are in the pending because you only see them in a timeline. 100 granted patents.
Now, again, I'm not a...
That's a good distinction.
Yeah.
It worries me what's under the hood.
No, exactly. I mean, many people don't realize it, but before it's completely approved, then, anyone can submit a patent. You just need a lot of money to do it.
Sure, but this could be a seismic shift in the creativity in the industry because there's developers out there thinking, I can develop using blockchain because it's open source or whatever. You know, I can take a copy of the chain and create one. But if it's being patented like this, that may actually stifle our industry. It's kind of a big issue. Probably not the issue for this discussion, but I just wondered if you had a view.
Yeah, I think it might be an issue, but I'm not a professional patent lawyer, so I'm not...
So with Craig Wright, I want him on the stage so that I can ask him those kind of questions and hold him to account, because he's a corporate, legally constituted as a company. His integrity has been questioned by a court, which I think that it's right for us to report on and have questions about. But actually, I want to ask him those kind of questions, and that's why I want him here. So you may consider me complicit in scam enabling and bringing Craig Wright here, because you said you have a big issue. But I want him here to ask him those questions for the sake of the industry. So I would ask you to be a little tolerant of those kind of things, because I think it's good for the industry.
I would say that most cases, you don't get to ask the questions. They are presenting their agenda on the stage, and then maybe they get asked a question or two questions, and on top of that, you're not bringing the real experts with the knowledge to ask the difficult questions, because not you or me are blockchain developers, and if you really wanted to have him being asked the serious professional questions, you could have arranged for the professional people to do it.
That is a great idea.
And you shouldn't have a panel when everyone gets to say what's on their mind very quickly. Put him on the stage and ask him the questions.
That's actually a great idea. Let's organise that.
That's it.
I really would like to do that. Because that to me is a very serious sort of latent issue in the industry that, it's interesting, it'll kind of stifle those that you call scammers. But let's move to the scammers. Who else is on the list?
So you have a lady called Julie May.
Yeah, she didn't come.
Yeah, of course, she didn't come, and that doesn't mean that it's okay. She just didn't show up.
Sure, so tell me about the background.
So the background is that she is being investigated by a couple of regulators in UK and Europe. She actually got a warrant against her by one of them already. I've received about a bit less than a dozen different people who are claiming that she owes them money, and on top of it, you don't really need me. I mean, it's all out there in order to see what's
Do we know
what's
if
the issue with it.
Does anybody know if it's sub judice? Is it a topic that we can't talk about? No, nobody knows. Okay, interesting. Okay, thank you. Keep
Sure.
going.
You have the CEO of LA Token Exchange, one of the most scammy exchanges in our industry. That exchange not only raised money from investors and used it for something completely different, which is a bit wrong in my book. Beside that, you have about dozens of founders that sent us evidence and showed us how LA Token scammed them, promising them the moon, telling them that they will get this and that and so on, and they paid for the IEOs to be launched on their IEO launchpad, and obviously nothing happened besides just losing the money for the founders.
Okay. Keep going. Any others?
You have the Aiton family, Nick and Obe Aiton. I personally published a story about them, and Nick Aiton was a director in a company that scammed £13 million from pension money from UK citizens. Obviously he's claiming he has nothing to do with it, but he's a director in that company. On top of that, he raised money for his ICO, a blockchain movie. Yes, you heard it correctly, a blockchain movie. And after he raised the funds, he used some of the funds as a loan for his other company, an advisory company, which is called, if I remember correctly, something to do with ethical. And when he was asked to comment who signed on the loan contract between the two companies, he said, "Oh, I did." On top of that, he, when I published the story, you can see the exchange of letters between the co-founders, and you don't even need me to say what's on my mind. You can just read them and see what they did with investors' money, how they completely mismanaged the company in a way that is obviously negligence, that can be a criminal offense, and beside all of that, obviously he threatened me before I published the story that he's going to publish a counter story about me, and at the last second he tried to convince me to get off of it. Obviously he couldn't, and obviously he didn't publish any story about me because he doesn't have any evidence or anything that he can publish about me.
So, I mean, the thing that's possible in situations like this is that if you choose, and we've learned today that you do publish first and ask questions second, a little bit. And so if you do that, then you actually hold yourself open to scrutiny. And you may be sued for some of the things you say if you publish suppositions. And are you prepared to fully accept that your style is to publish first and then ask questions later?
No, absolutely not.
Because it feels a bit like that.
I'm sorry, but I don't see how you decided that decision, because I asked him to comment, and I actually changed the story.
I was just going to say, I mean, you know, the question I ask you is that he could obviously responded, which is great, but you know, you're not. It worries me a bit. I'll tell you why, and I'll connect this to something else. It's because in this discussion we've come across 2 or 3 occasions where you've published first and asked questions later.
No, you're saying it again and again. It doesn't mean that that's reality.
I gave you an evidence.
I understand what you're doing and what you're trying to do,
yeah.
but it's not the reality. Because I asked questions and then I publish. I asked for comments, he replied, I changed the story according to his comments, then I asked for comments again, that's when I was again threatened, and then I published. So I'm not publishing and then asking questions, we're asking questions before.
But then, for example, when I connect this to And I just don't understand why you won't talk about now Brock Pierce. Do you have a gagging order or something? But now
I'm not interested in talking to him because I don't have any evidence.
You're checking.
There are claims by different people about him, and I'm not saying anything, I'm not implying anything, I'm just saying that I'm not interested in talking about him because I don't have anything to say.
Okay, but what the good news behind that is you're going to check first. That's great, and it's important to do that. I'm simply saying that you have an opportunity to say, I'm getting some wrap-up signals now, so please make sure that I'm not the person that cuts you off. Please, if there's anything else you want to discuss, then please.
Yes, absolutely.
What should the industry do to
exactly,
improve itself?
That's exactly what I was about to say. So I think that, and what I would like to ask everyone who's listening, we all need to think how we can avoid helping the scammers. I'm not expecting anyone to do the same as we do. I completely understand that people don't have the time, the will, the interest, or they are just scared to publicly go after bad actors. So I'm not asking anyone to do it. I'm just asking people to stop shutting their eyes, and if they do know that there's a scammer in an event, either avoid the event or either contact the organizers and ask them to remove the scammer, because we do not want to give stage to the scammers and making people lose a lot of money and hurting people. So that's my very clear message, and
may I respond?
And absolutely, and if you do know about any specific scam, always feel free to contact us at Cointelligence, obviously. Yes, of course you can respond.
My response is, as someone that loves to get involved in events like this for the learning that we have, I don't want to crush the opportunity to bring these people who are currently held out as leading figures, to bring them on the stage and hold them to account. So I want them here, because if they're scammers, we can out them. So actually, I disagree with you. But also what I disagree with is that you messaged just about everyone involved with this with what felt like a threat. It felt like a threat. I don't know if you know how that feels.
What do you mean threat?
So, for example, there are people that were speaking, organizing, co-presenting, that kind of thing. Myself, you sent me a message. And so actually, let me deal with it personally. What you sent me a message was, which finished with saying, remove these people because they are scammers in your view. Remove them, and then if you don't, and this is the threat, then you in some way hold responsibility for this, which meant that I might get attacked on Cointelligence for being complicit. That I objected because that's a threat. And what I'm saying to you is I want to bring these people to the stage so that I can ask John McAfee what the hell is he thinking about in having a zero KYC exchange, right? I want to ask him that question. I don't want you to try and stop me. In fact, I'll fight you if you try and stop me. In fact, I want you to be with me in that fight, right? Because I think you're somebody who could be with me in that fight.
That's one way to look at it. The other way is that what I meant was that the next time that McAfee is promoting a scam and maybe someone that you know will be scammed, you might take it differently than how you look at it now. Because when you talk to someone that lost his entire life savings
Absolutely.
because of a tweet that Mr. McAfee did, then I think he will look at things a bit different.
That's so true.
But maybe I look at things different because I am talking to victims on a regular basis, and I don't think that you are.
That's true, and I like the fact that you do, and I wonder if we bring some victims to conferences like this as well. It's a really interesting angle. That well, there's one victim here. I think it's Monty Munford. Monty, are you in the room? No? So Monty tells a great story about how his crypto was stolen. It's another issue. It's a whole other thing. Look, I'm so sorry you're out of time. Do you feel like you had an opportunity?
Yes, absolutely.
Please put your hands together for On Yavin for being out there. Thank you. Okay, stay.